Let's get ready to rumble!
Benzinga Nation, jam-packed show today. Peloton up 5%.
What's up, disciplined investor?
We got Benzinga CEO Jason Raznick here with us.
The man, the myth, the legend, Tom Nash.
Peter Schiff on the Power Hour with us live today.
Interesting, different, unique, innovative companies.
Mia, you are live with us on the Power Hour. What's up?
Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Jessica Billingsley, that is the CEO of Akerna.
The best trade idea resource out there. Boom! Let's go, guys. It's Monday, ready to rock and roll. I'm hitting it strong. Right up front. Let's go. All right, guys, this is the Power Hour. This is the Trade Idea Show. Let's dive into it for the day, for the week. It's a red day, so I'm bringing a little bit extra today, okay? It's a red day. We all need a little bit of help. Let me go ahead and share my screen today. There we go. All right, so you'll see SPY's down about 1.7%. Brutal. Don't worry, we were at all-time highs a couple days ago, okay? If we zoom out, here's the daily candles, right? We're looking at 1 year daily candles. We are red today. Worst day in a long while. That's all right. We'll get some ideas going. So guys, I am going to throw out the first call to action in the chat. If you have stocks that you are putting on the buy list today, drop the tickers in the chat. I am going to get started with the first stock on my buy list today. Again, guys, is today a buy the dip? It's always a buy the dip day for some stocks. So let's filter through what those are. I'm going to roll with my first idea right up front. 12:10, so just about 5 minutes from now. American Pacific Mining is going to be joining the show. 12:30, John Sculley is going to be joining the show, the previous CEO of Apple. And then at 1 o'clock, Tim Draper's coming on. So we have a jam-packed day, guys. Time to get it rolling. I'm seeing those first tickers fly through in the chat. I see the Nvidia. I see the AMC. Rod, you throwing out your Nvidia there. We are actually going to be doing a Nvidia chat challenge just in a little bit, about 15 minutes. We're going to be doing some price guessing on the Nvidia for the week, and the winner is going to get some prizes. But all right, let me show you mine. My first buy the dip stock of the day. More to come. Voyager Digital stock is down 8% today, 10.50. Brutal run, down about 40% over the past several sessions. So take a look at what I'm looking at on this stock. So, all right, Voyager Digital, crypto brokerage, not exchange. They connect to all the exchanges. Here's why I think this one is interesting. We had this press release come out from the company last week. They're expecting their revenue for the quarter that just ended. Granted, this was a huge quarter, but their revenue for the quarter that just ended to be somewhere between $103 and $107 million. Okay, the previous quarter revenue was $65 million. Okay, revenue increased from $65 million to $100 million. What is that? It's about a 50% hop on a quarter-over-quarter basis, and yet the stock is still getting killed. We're sitting at a $1.5 billion market cap right now. So I'm pulling out my trusty calculator, $1.5 billion. $400 million revenue run rate. The stock is trading at less than 4 times its price to sales multiple. Okay, we're talking about a company that's in a good. You can't say a good space. Crypto space is a little tough right now. It's at least in a decent space, right? It's in the crypto space. They grew revenue from 60 million to 100 million quarter over quarter, and the stock is trading at less than 4 times revenue. I mean, that is like bottom of the barrel value prices. The S&P 500 trades at more than 4 times sales. And so for that reason, Voyager Digital is going on my buy the dip list, first idea of the day. The company also bought back stock. They had so much cash flow that they bought back stock. There it is, 250,000 shares. I expect that they're going to continue to buy back stock if the price continues to sell off. And so there's first idea of the day on our buy the dip session. PYGVF. I'm putting it into my buy list. All right. Boom. Let's read out some of these other tickers out of the chat that you guys had on your list for a red day like today. We have RECAF, Nvidia. We talked about, guys. If you're just joining us, we're going to be doing a Nvidia price guessing challenge in about 10 minutes. for some Benzinga merch. So stay tuned for that. AMC is on there. Let's do a quick little AMC price check. AMC off another 6.5% today. Tough, especially with some of like the Delta variant headlines that have been floating around. I don't think that we're going to see any sort of mass exodus of theaters shutting down again. You never know. It could be a California thing, but generally speaking, I don't think that's going to be the case. Neo. Let's pull Neo up. It was down pre-market, now battling its way back up to flat. The headline for Neo, guys, this is our Chinese EV maker, the Chinese Tesla competitor. The headline to look out for on Neo is that there's this company called XPeng, another public company. They announced a really cheap vehicle and started taking pre-orders for that vehicle. It's below $25,000 USD. And so that headline was hitting Neo earlier in the day. And then one more that I see on your buy the dip list, IDXX, IDEX Labs. Wow, that is a strong chart. This chart that we're looking at here, it's daily candles, 1-year chart. I mean, this is just a straight march higher. If we go ahead and we zoom in, we're pretty much right at those highs. We had the cluster high, sitting right here. What is that? 671 or so. If you get a break above that, I think the stock starts to look really interesting. I'm going to put this one on our list for later in the week too. We've got to do some research on this stock. I mean, out of nowhere, stock's up 100% over the past year. And I mean, that is a straight march higher over the past couple months. So shout out to WK who dropped that one, IDXX, in the chat.
Luke, what about China's Uber play, Didi?
I think Didi's interesting. We have a guest we're going to hop to in a minute here, producer AB. But I think that Didi is potentially interesting. The stock is resting right at its lows. So if you guys don't recall that this is Uber of China, it is ubiquitous in China. Everybody has to use Didi as like their Uber transportation solution. The company had an IPO. Less than a week later, China raised some security concerns, banned it from the App Store. Obviously bad for the stock price. We're looking at, the stock opened, it's trading at $18 on its IPO and is now down to 11. Obviously brutal month. What is that? Like a 40% decline, somewhere around there. Let's make sure that we come back to Didi at the end of the show. I want to see if the stock price is going to bounce off of these previous lows, because again, it's resting right at those lows, or if it falls through them. If we get a bounce off the lows, I think that Didi is interesting to look at from the long perspective.
I agree. I think, as you said, let's revisit it at the end of last week. WK Harris in the chat saying he beat Spencer's butt last week in the chat stock pick challenge. He picked DD, and WK was one of the only few ones that had a actually positive return on their stock pick. So congrats, WK.
Boom. There it is. All right. So let's keep it cooking, guys. The idea for today is we're going to be talking buy the dip, potential buy the dip plays throughout the show. I give you my first pitch, a stock that's a high growth company trading at less than 4 times sales. Today is the day I'm going to pull the trigger, increase my position there. We're about to bring American Pacific Mining onto the show. We promise you guys, we bring you interesting companies, stocks you aren't familiar with. So we're going to be hopping over to American Pacific in just a second here. We're going to be doing the Nvidia split challenge. There's a stock split taking place in Nvidia this week. So we're going to be running a contest in about 15 minutes. And then John Sculley, former CEO of Apple, is going to be joining. And then Tim Draper is coming on at 1 o'clock Eastern. So we have a jam-packed hour. All right. How does that sound?
I love it. I'm sending you the link for the chat challenge right now, Luke.
All righty. Thank you, producer AB. All right. Warwick Smith, CEO, American Pacific Mining. Welcome to the Power Hour. It is an honor to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Luke. Thanks very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And is that a humidor and a what is that? A balloon bunny I see in the background?
It's a balloon dog and a humidor. Yeah, I'm hoping to have one of the cigars later. We'll see.
Okay, all right. Interesting collection. I like it. I can appreciate a good background, especially
You gotta have an interesting Zoom background these days, right?
exactly. It gets things started off. But how are things in your world today?
No complaints. Listen, I'm based in Vancouver, British Columbia. It's beautiful and sunny here today. Things are good. No complaints.
Excellent. And before we dive into it, could you just give us a little bit of background on the company for anybody who may not be familiar? And everybody out there watching, I'm going to do the ticker real quick. It's USGDF. Again, USGDF, and I will drop that in the chat.
Yeah, fantastic. So American Pacific's a company that we took public in March of 2018, did a transformative transaction last year, picked up an asset down in Montana. It's a gold copper exploration asset. We're partnered with Rio Tinto. Rio Tinto is the second largest mining company in the world. So in a lot of ways, if you're not fully versed in mining or mining exploration, which a lot of people aren't, you want to look at these small companies that can give you that big 10x lift, that real excitement. You're looking for ones that are involved with a major already. There's your takeout plan, and they've done a lot of the due diligence for you. In this case, we have that. We're working with Rio Tinto. They also fit all the bills. We're free carried, so they can spend up to 30 million US to earn 70% of the asset. That's the company. It's done very well recently. If you take a look at the chart, it's gone up 4 or 5 fold in the past 6 weeks or so, and that was with the addition of a gentleman named Michael Gentili, who invested his money. Very well-known mining financier who's put a real nice spotlight on the company. The last one that he did was a company called Arizona Mining. Got involved in that at 20 cents, and the stock is trading around $5. So we've seen a real nice lift so far. We certainly think we have a lot of room to go. Company's got about a $65 million market cap sitting here today.
Excellent. And you mentioned the property. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, and then how far along you guys are, and how exactly Rio Tinto is going to be involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So the project's based in Montana, just outside of Silver Star, Montana. Essentially it's a high-grade skarnet surface and a porphyry underneath. I won't get too deep into the geology, but high-grade gold, high-grade copper, the exact type of thing that Rio Tinto would be looking for. There's a funny story about how we got it. There was another company that had it before us. They did some great work, got some great drill results. In April of 2019, they brought in Rio Tinto as a partner. 2 months later, they halted and turned themselves into a psychedelics company. So wow. we were able to swoop in and purchase the asset for, at the time, a $2.4 million valuation in stock. And then from there, we've grown. Rio's been drilling. They're drilling as we speak. So there'll be significant news flow coming out of the asset as we go forward here. And we think we feel that we have a tiger by the tail. They're getting good results. We just put out a press release today showing more mineralization almost 2 kilometers away from where our known mineralization is. So the asset is certainly getting a lot bigger as we speak.
Yeah, and so you mentioned more news flow coming. You mentioned the press release that was out today. I've got this press release up on the screen here. For those of us who aren't mining experts, and I'm one of them, at least. Can you just help us interpret this press release, what we should be looking for in releases of this nature, and what exactly it means for the company?
Yeah, I'm happy to do so. Look, evaluating junior mining companies when you're not in the mining space can be difficult. So often what people will do is they'll look for industry experts to help them. So people who write investment newsletters, etc. They look for big strategic investors. We have one of those. Look for majors who are already involved. Your major, your Rio Tinto or your Barrick or your Newmont, who comes in and gets involved, believe me, they do a tremendous amount of due diligence in advance of spending a penny. If you can get through that, you give your small cap investor, your small family office, your hedge fund that isn't necessarily primarily looking at mining can then look at this and say, okay, smart money has evaluated this asset and they think that they're onto something. Now, how does that translate? Let me give you an example. A company by the name of Reservoir Minerals a few years ago, they had a similar joint venture on a very similar style asset to what we have. Theirs was a epithermal system with the porphyry underneath. Ours is a skarnet surface with a porphyry underneath. They had a partner named Nevson. Nevson could earn 70% of the project. They did. They ended up buying out the other 30% for $360 million US. So sitting at a $65 million Canadian market cap, there's still a lot of room for growth there. Plus, we have additional assets. We have cash. We're in a very, very strong position. So this is the type of company, if you're interested in the space and the space can get hot, if you're interested in the space, this is the type of company we feel you should be looking at.
Okay, that's amazingly helpful. I'd always wondered, with all these junior miners, what exactly you look for. I think the major relationship, like your relationship with Rio Tinto, is super interesting. You mentioned that there's a lot of due diligence that they do, but before getting involved and starting some of the drilling, like what exactly does that look like? Does that mean that they're putting like boots on the ground to go out and take samples, or what exactly does that look like?
Yeah, great question, Luke. They do both. So they're both boots on the ground, but then they do a ton of data work as well. So 3D modeling, basically taking what's happening underground and putting it into a 3D space so you can spin it around. If you go to the American Pacific website, you can see some of that work that's been done. That helps them target, that helps them get a feel for, can they make this big? Really, what do you want out of a junior? If you're laying down a bet on a junior, you're hoping that you're going to have a tremendous lift in your stock price. You're not looking for that 10, 20%. Most people are looking for those 10x lifts. So you're looking for something that can get big, that a major will be interested in. That's really the key of what you're looking for. Again, I think that's what you have here. Yeah. I'll comment on this as well. Management's important. My business partner is a gentleman by the name of Eric Saderholm. Worked with him for a long time. He was the head of exploration in the Western US from Newmont. So it was his job to make the decision, to help make the decision for what assets Newmont was going to buy. So they're looking for stuff that's 3 million ounces or bigger to begin with. You got to see a lot of things that were 500,000, 1 million ounces that can grow. And we've been involved in a bunch of those. This is the third one now that we really feel with Rio Tinto involved can have that huge lift. So we're excited to see that here. That management portion of the team is integral to your success as a shareholder.
Excellent. And one last question for you. Can you give us an idea as of timeline or catalyst we should be looking out for, or what's next for the investor audience?
Yeah, for sure. From the American Pacific standpoint, Rio is drilling as we speak. We released trenching news today. We're going to have significant news flow here for the rest of 2021, including a bunch of drill results coming out. Okay. We have additional assets down in Nevada. We're going to drill one of those starting late summer, early fall. So we'll announce permitting of that. We'll announce drilling of that. So we're going to have significant amount of news coming forward. People are always looking for good drill holes. This asset has had those in the past. We look forward to having some more in the future.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your day, bringing us the humidor plus the balloon dog and yourself, of course, and hopping on the Power Hour to tell us about this company.
Appreciate you, Luke. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, guys. One more time, the ticker, I will give it to you. It's USGDF. All right, USGDF. There we have it. Pretty interesting. I don't know if producer AB is still there hanging out, but I've long wondered about how folks make decisions on some of these small miners, right? Because as the individual investor, you're not getting into, you're not physically going to the mine site, right? And even if you got there, it's not like you have the resources or the expertise to be able to say, yeah, this looks promising, or it doesn't. And so there we go. We'll do a run through of this again tomorrow, guys, because I was taking some notes. We have the little checklist of what to look for or what are promising signs for some of these junior miners. So boom, big shout out there. And guys, smash the like button, share the stream. We're going to keep the idea flow going. So far, we're 20 minutes into this thing. We already have 2 ideas for you. I did my first pitch. It's a high growth stock that I think is trading at incredibly low multiples, given a 5-day slide in the share price. So I'm buying the dip there. We just talked to American Pacific Mining. We got IDXX, another interesting one out of the chat. Let's roll it to one more, producer AB.
Let's
do
it.
Which ticker I'm going to say?
Ford.
Nope. We're going to Nvidia. All right. So we're about to do our Nvidia price challenge. If you're just joining us in about 10 minutes, we're going to have John Sculley joining the Power Hour, former president of Pepsi, CEO of Apple, among a million other things. And then 1 p.m., Tim Draper's joining us. So we got to jam-packed show on the Benzinga YouTube today.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I'm excited. Luke, real quick, I'm getting a little static from your mic. I'm going to have producer Rohan step in and try to fix it. I'm going to pull up NVIDIA's chart on my screen, go over what I see just while we're getting that figured out.
All right. Well, here, producer Rohan is doing something right now. I see him in the background. I'm going to put this link into the chat, everybody. So what we're doing is we are guessing the price that NVIDIA is going to finish at for the week. The winner gets a Benzinga jacket. All right, we've got some badass Benzinga track jackets. Whoever guesses the price most closely is getting a Benzinga track jacket. The link is in the chat. Click on the spreadsheet, open it up, and here's what makes this one challenging. Okay, you've got two things you're up against. One, you have the stock that dumped over the past several sessions, and we're getting a nice little rebound today, but generally speaking, it's dumped over the past several sessions, more than a 10% slide. Two, the stock is splitting tomorrow. All right, we have a 1-for-4 split that's going to bring the price lower. That's happening tomorrow. And so we are throwing this one out to the crowd, out to Zinger Nation, all of you out there. What price is NVIDIA going to finish at for the week? Okay, I'm let's bring the spreadsheet onto the screen. Pretty simple. You put your name in column A. You put your price guess in column B. The question is this pre or post split? It's post split. Okay, stop guessing 840. Okay, it's a 4-for-1 split.
Well, unless Brian thinks it's gonna 4x tomorrow. But just for reference, right now NVIDIA is trading at $753 a share roughly. So if the stock,
so take your guesses and divide them by 4 if you're using today's stock price.
Right.
And Bruce JB, I'm about to get a new mic. Okay.
All right, you go ahead and do that. So just for reference, if that happens today, the stock will open tomorrow at $183 a share after split. Of course. So I've got the chart pulled up. Let me put the chart back on the screen. This is a stock that has been, so it was trading sideways for a while, for a lot of 2020. If we go back to last September, it was around $583. And for about 5 months from September to February, the stock was trading in this range of in between $582 to $470. So we saw some consolidation, but it looked like it was kind of stagnant. And then we saw this little rip here, followed by a bigger dip down to 460. So it blew past these previous support levels, only to continue ripping to all-time highs, which we saw earlier this month in July. The stock got all the way up to $833, followed by a big dip. And now we are seeing this uptrend after the dip. So this is one of my favorite long-term stocks.
Can you give me a mic check, producer AB? How does that sound?
It sounds a lot better. I'm not getting the static anymore. So if Luke's mic sounds better, throw 1 in the chat. If you're still hearing some static or you don't like it, throw a 2. But I think we're looking good on the audio, Luke.
And the price that we're guessing is for this time Friday. Okay, let's call it 12 Eastern on Friday is when we're going to call it. Again, link is going in the chat one last time. Get your guesses in there. Did you throw out your guess yet, producer AB?
No, I haven't. I'm gonna go with. Let me enter mine in there right quick. I'm gonna say $208 a share.
All right, so you're 208. So I got to do a little bit of work. I'm taking 752 as the current price. I'm dividing it by 4, so that's 188. I'm gonna go with another 8% higher on top of that.
So if I go 208, I times that by 4, you get 832. It's right at its previous all-time highs. I think after the stock split, we're going to see a little bit more attention on the stock because it might become affordable to some traders who weren't able to buy full shares of Nvidia before.
This is a good individual investor stock. Like it's a household brand. Right? Yeah, versus like an industrial company or something along those lines.
I mean, look, Luke, this isn't one that I necessarily trade a lot just because it's so expensive, but it is in my long-term portfolio. It's in my Roth. It's actually the biggest holding in my Roth because I just feel great that I can just buy and hold this for a long time, maybe even pass the shares down to some family someday or something because I don't think this company's going anywhere. They have a strong.
Are you going to be having kids? in the near future?
I certainly hope not.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Raznick, happy Monday.
I'm putting the aggregates on
Aaron,
here.
How do you like me going to a lot more cash the past like 2 months and 2.5 months and selling my Tesla at 660?
I think it's very smart. I think I'm pleasantly surprised by that you're off margin.
I've been off margin. Yeah, I mean, talking about this, how I kept trimming because I didn't have a no-brainer stock to buy. And yes, I'm definitely off margin in a decent way because I just kept, when my things weren't happening, I was like, all right, better when I have more confidence. And so the only thing I did buy was that the Callaway.
ELY, let's go check that out. Ticker ELY, Callaway.
And really quick on the Nvidia, let's round it out because I just did the math. The average that people are guessing is 203, median 201. So as a group, we're guessing the price goes higher after the split. Low 154, high 347. Again, guys, the price right now is 188. If the split were to be live right now, it would be 188. You guys are guessing 202. All right, let's look at that Callaway. I'm seeing more and more golf stuff all over social.
Yeah, I mean, we saw during COVID, more people started playing
Nvidia.
golf. No, I got. All right, now we got Callaway pulled up. So here we've seen Callaway get down to this previous support level of about $28.
Wow, $29.
Yeah, and it's almost approaching one of these like psychological levels. Like if it gets all the way down to 25, if we go all the way back to December of 2020, we have a support level at 24.50. I mean, I don't like getting into stocks for trades when they're on the downtrend. I'd rather see some movement back up before I get into it. So I'm gonna wait, Jason.
Well, Jason, let me ask you this as our golf expert. So the next quarterly earnings report we're going to be getting from Callaway is for the period April through June. So April, May, June. Is that in like the heat of people buying golf equipment? I would guess that it is.
For sure.
Beginning of season.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely May, June, but I think
is it too early?
No, I think as golf season is starting, that's when a lot of people are looking to improve their equipment, maybe get new iron. A lot of people, at least in my experience, don't necessarily like to get a whole new set of irons or a new driver right in the middle of the season. They want to implement those changes at the beginning of the season, or maybe they'll be struggling with their clubs and then want to get some in the middle of the season. But from my experience working in golf courses in the past, people are really looking to, if they're looking to make changes in their equipment, are looking to do it in March, April.
I think so. My theory was a little different, is that inventory was really hard to come by. Most companies did not have the inventory to sell grips, shafts, all that stuff. Callaway bought a lot of stuff during COVID, like in the beginning of COVID. So it was one of the few companies that had a ton of supply. It wasn't that people weren't buying Callaway, but they had more supply than their competitors. And so given that, Luke, I think Callaway's numbers could be pretty strong. I mean, I've seen multiple people buy Callaway clubs this summer, so I don't know if it's too soon. But the one negative thing that Callaway has going for it, the CEO said in the last quarterly conference call, we have so much demand, like almost like unlimited demand, to the point that like he has to have a truly blowout quarter for it to really rally the way that I want it to rally.
Well, we also have to think that a significant amount of Callaway's earnings now are going to be based on Topgolf, which I think Topgolf, I mean, driving by a Topgolf, parking lot's always packed, all the bays are taken. So I think that we'll have to see kind of for the next year or so what the earnings look like from the Topgolf portion of the business, and we'll see how that affects the stock price.
Sure. I mean, it's like, I think it's a fourth. I think it helps with with golf season,
winter, when revenue slows down.
Exactly. And so I think it'll be a good thing. Do I buy more Eli today? That's the question. I've sold some more stuff, but the question is, do I buy more Eli today?
And for context, Jason, SPY is down almost 2% today, so the whole market is just getting killed.
Yeah, I may buy 50 shares, small amount, and buy 50 shares. I mean, I've sold some stuff. My Leslie Pool Supply, I'm pretty much out now. Ben is at 66. I'm down, 28% on that one. So
yeah. Well, Jason, if these are all stocks that you want to hold long term, then there's nothing wrong with kind of averaging your price as the stocks dip. I would just say for Callaway, only buy more shares today if you're willing to then buy more if it continues to dip here in the throughout the week. Because I could see it coming down to this 27 level, but who knows? We could bounce back up tomorrow, and then your shares that you bought today would be up. So,
right, I know. It's hard. I mean, day to day is a hard thing with the market,
Yeah, it's virtually impossible to time the market. So that's why I think it's best to just kind of average your price in the stocks that you want to hold long term. For me, that's Nvidia. I do like Callaway. Let's check on before.
Let's get to our interview.
All right, let's do that.
I don't want to leave John hanging. All right, guys, big interview coming up. Previous president of Pepsi, former CEO of Apple, among other things. Let's go ahead and bring Mr. John Sculley on to the Power Hour. Hello.
Hi.
How are you doing on this fine Monday afternoon? We are very excited that you're joining us today.
Well, thanks. I really love what you guys are doing at Benzinga. You are particularly appealing, I think, to young investors, and you make it fun as well as really insightful points of view. So it's great to watch your show.
Absolutely appreciate it. And before we get into it, the painting in the background, can you tell us what's going on there? I'm definitely one who appreciates a good background.
I got that about 15 years ago on one of my many trips to China, when my wife Diane, you can also see in the photo next to it, we were over there. And that's a typical Chinese village as it looked in the interior of China about 15 years ago. That's not a photo, that's a painting. And of course, just puts in the context that China was a pretty rural place, and still a lot of China is pretty rural with 1.4 billion people.
Okay. All right. I definitely appreciate it. When we were preparing for this interview, there was like a wide range of things that we know we could ask you about, and you'd be one of the best people in the world to answer it. One of them that I think is really interesting for our individual investor crowd, right? That's who we're talking to every single day, is what to look for in a management team. There's thousands and thousands of publicly traded companies. Are there any traits that you've found of good leaders that subsequently make good investors, and some of the things that, again, the individual investor can look into?
Well, I would narrow my perspective to companies that are trying to change the game, companies that are trying to either invent a new industry, invent a new category, trying to bring science or technology in to reimagine what that industry might be, because there's no reason for a new company to come into an incumbent industry unless you can come in and do something in a better way. So what I look for is leadership that is insatiably curious, leadership that's willing to take risks, leadership that has a passion for what they do, and it shows through the culture of the company. And someone who is able to recruit great talent, because you never build great companies with just one person. So that sounds like a pretty easy list, but then you start matching that up against how many people can actually live up to that, and it's relatively small.
Okay. And I mean, you've had such a career with everything from launching the Pepsi Challenge to running and growing Apple. And you're still involved with numerous companies. Is that what you look for when you're making the decision? Hey, is this something that I want to be a part of and help this company to succeed?
Well, my role today is different than it was when I was a CEO of a company. I love mentoring new talent coming up. And so I think the biggest kind of give back I can do for the next generation is to help them learn from my mistakes, help them learn from having been involved in so many different industries. I've been in wireless technology. I've been in, launched companies for cell phone services. I've launched companies in biotech, companies in all kinds of healthcare. So I'm pretty wide ranging in the types of things I'm involved with, but the principles are always the same. There are only a small number of people who are going to be really good at changing the industry, being a true innovator. And I try to look for that type of talent. And then if they want me to help them, then, I love doing that. I can only do it with a small number of companies at any one time. And my wife, Diane, who is a computer engineer and a mathematician, and I work very closely. All of our investments are in companies that involve transformational technology.
Excellent. Jason, I saw you pop in. I don't know if you have a question or if you want me to keep going.
No, I did. So are you still involved with Peopleticker?
We sold Peopleticker very successfully last year.
You did? Okay, yeah. It's cool data-based play on salaries and I thought it was a cool company. So
yeah, no, it's a cool company, and it turned out very well for everybody.
Yeah, and how do you typically? I mean, you're well known. How do you typically filter out, deal flow that comes to you? Is it usually just like a personal reference or, personal intro, or do you get cold emails? Like how do you typically filter out stuff like that?
Well, I'm not looking for companies.
Yep.
People come to me, we get probably, hundreds a week of people, most of which, we're not going to have much interest in. I tend to pay the most attention to people who are able to explain very clearly what it is that they want to do. One of the things I learned from Steve Jobs, remember, Steve lived an amazing life. He was able to reinvent 4 industries. He reinvented the computer industry, the entertainment industry with Pixar, the phone industry with the iPhone, and the music industry with the iPod. So that's an amazing accomplishment. And so it's a high bar for anyone to equal that. One of the good examples of what you're asking me is a company in the biotech field, which was started by a good friend of mine, Bob Hariri, and trying to live up to the kind of brilliance that a Steve Jobs has is pretty hard. But what's interesting with Bob Hariri is that he is a scientist. He had a passion for believing that you could take the placental blood cord stem cells, which are coming from the umbilical cord when a child is born. That's a time when the mother is pretty much immune from most things. And so Bob had this idea about 16 years ago that you could actually make that a source material for cancer therapies. And he worked at it for a long, long time before I ever met him. Then in 2016, he came to me and he said, look, I'm going to start a company and I want to take it public and I'd love you to be a part of it. And so he asked me to be one of his vice chairmen. And it's just incredible what's happened from 2016 to where we are today. We just finished de-SPACing days ago. And so we're now trading, under our own name as Cellularity, and we're doing pretty well. But the most important thing is what I learned with Steve Jobs is the ability to look ahead. And in Steve's case, he could see what would be obvious to the rest of us maybe 20 years into the future. What Bob Hariri is doing is many ways analogous to that, because he's looked ahead and said, why can't we take these placental blood cord stem cells and have a new role for stem cells from this source for cancer therapies or for regenerative medicine? And that's exactly what he's done. And it's an amazing journey. I'm excited to be on it, and I plan to be involved with this for quite a few years into the future.
Yeah, and I told Aaron, put the symbol at the bottom, so because you just finished the de-SPACing process, right?
We have, yeah. And so the company's in great shape. What you do during the de-SPACing process, as I'm sure is that's when you have to be like the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. You have to transform from a private company into the very challenging regulatory environment as a public company. And that's what we did. We built out a $75 million factory, the only factory in the cell therapy world, which is using a continuous manufacturing process, which enables us to take this life source material that Bob has been working on for years and take it into so many different directions, and then ultimately be able to dramatically disrupt the pricing for these outrageously expensive cell therapies. So our vision, really Bob's vision that we all support, is this, we believe, has an amazing future ahead of it for all kinds of cancer diseases.
Yeah. And so I know, because we have 3 kids, and I know we pay for that, but not for this part of the research. But we get these bills where they store what you're talking about, but I didn't know the cancer part of it. Like, that's a new thing, take on it, right?
Well, we actually have at Cellularity the largest life bank in the world.
You do
for storing the placental blood cord stem cells. It just takes a small amount, and we're able to use those placental stem cells for all different types of things. We're doing regenerative medicines with another company called United Therapeutics, a public company, working on developing synthetic lungs. 1 million people need a lung transplant, 40,000 get it a year. Huge change for society if we can be successful. This will take several years and get through the FDA process, but that's just one of the things that we're doing. We're working on longevity with our regenerative medicine, but the highest priority right now is what we're doing with our cell therapies, with the AML, which is leukemia, which is acute myeloid leukemia, and a very, very serious life-threatening disease. And we're also working with multiple myeloma, another serious cancer, and we're working with glioblastoma, a brain cancer. So the range of opportunities with this amazing material of the placental blood cord stem cell is just extraordinary. And Bob Hariri had the vision. He started this over 16 years ago, and he put the team together. We've got an amazing team of talent, and we're just in the right place at the right time, we believe.
And the symbol CELU.
Yes.
Okay, cool. We have that on the screen. So check out CELU. That's the new symbol, right?
Correct.
Okay. And so switching from that a little bit, you've been involved with many successful companies, from Hotwire to Intralinks. Was it because a person you like that was doing both those companies or other companies, or it's just that you're able to like see where the puck's going before? Like, I could read your Wikipedia and people will be like, holy S word. And holy shit is what I was going to say. Yeah. And I'm just like, I know Luke already asked you a little bit about what you.
Well, let me give you some real answers. So Intralinks was co-founded by my brother Arthur, who had been the head of Worldwide Private Bank at JP Morgan before he left and went off and started Intralinks. Okay. So that was a pretty easy one for me to get involved. Yes. Hotwire, I was brought in by TPG. Because they wanted my marketing background, and they were big investors in the airline industry. They watched what Price line was able to do successfully, and they said, "Hey, we can do that, but even better." And so I was involved with that. We built it up in less than 2 years, and we sold it to Barry Diller for $780 million. Pretty good outcome for a couple of years' work. I was involved with the founding team of Metro PCS. We built that up, eventually sold it for $9 billion to T-Mobile. And the more recent ones are Zeta Global, which is a company which I co-founded with my long-term partner, David Steinberg. We just took that through an IPO process. It's now a public company. Yep. And we are really, we think, positioned to be one of the big leaders in marketing automation. We have profitability. We're growing incredibly fast. We have a great team. We have about 1,500 people in the company, and those are just some examples. Yeah, and this Zeta Global. I mean, David has also built multiple companies from zero to a huge company. Yeah, and I've been his co-founder each time he's done that, for at least for public companies. Right, got it. We don't use Zeta Global, Benzinga. I mean, we're like a HubSpot shop. Yeah. But is that going to compete with HubSpot and stuff? Zeta Global?
Yeah, I mean, is it?
Well, the way to think of Zeta,
Yep.
if you look at the footprint of the big marketing automation platforms, the largest is Facebook, about 240 million members. The second largest is Google, about 210 million members. And the third is Zeta Global. We have 204 million. We have what many people have said is the most advanced technology with ML AI, machine learning and artificial intelligence. And we have some of the biggest companies in the United States that are using our service. So what happens with a large advertiser, they don't bet on just one platform. They'll do multiple. They have so much money to put to work. They'll have maybe Facebook and Google, but they'll also have us. And so it's a very good place to be.
Yeah, and you guys have done acquisitions like Discuss and
yeah, we've done a lot of acquisitions. The reality is, if you want to grow a company and you can bring in the talent from smaller companies, one of our great skill sets at Zeta Global is David Steinberg is a master at being able to negotiate acquisitions, bring them in, and then our COO and CFO and our other team members are terrific at integrating that acquisition into our platform. And what that means is we can take a small company that may be losing money, integrate it in just a few months, and have it not only growing much faster, but also making money. So that's a pretty good repeatable formula we have. Yeah,
I like Zeta, and you brought some people from Trade Desk, which is another top.
Yeah, well, Trade Desk is a huge success.
Yep.
And we just brought our chief marketing officer in from Trade Desk. We brought our head of investor relations in from Twitter. So, we are getting the attention of people in some of the best companies in the world.
So you're getting pretty hands-on with all these companies, from Celerity to Zeta Global. Like, I didn't, you knew that you guys brought on Crystal from Trade Desk. That's what you got to do, right? I mean, that's what
it's all about talent. You got to have really talented people. Well, how do you get extraordinary talented people? You have talented CEO leadership at the top. People want to work for a CEO who creates a culture which is fun to be a part of, which is able to draw a lot of talent. It takes bench strength in many different ways. It's never done by one person. And David Steinberg is a perfect example of that. I mean, and he's done it before. And we're actually working on companies we're going to bring out in the future too. So it's really fun for me because I'm not doing the day-to-day work, but I'm deeply involved in so many of the things that go on in each of these companies because I have a background in technology and operations and marketing and all of the different functions.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought this thing up. We're gonna have to bring David on the show because we got to talk about Zeta Global. I mean, I didn't realize how.
You really ought to do that. I mean, he's better at talking about it than I am. I mean, nothing like a passionate founder CEO who really knows what he's talking about, and he wouldn't be able to successfully recruit the people he has in this company over a period of years if he wasn't able to be that kind of leader.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like you said, it's the team, and a passionate founder CEO like Steve Jobs was, etc. Steve Jobs worked hard to bring you in, and the only person that was going to bring you in was the founder person who had that passion to say the sugar water line, right? That we famously hear about all the time.
And that's a true story. But I had actually. Steve and I had spent 5 months getting together every weekend, getting to know each other, talking about things. How did we, think we could work together, and so forth. And at the end of it, I was standing on the terrace of a new apartment he just bought at the San Remo Tower, which is now owned by Bono. And I looked at Steve and I said, Steve, I've thought about it a long time. I'm not coming to Apple. And Steve Jobs, and this is when he was, 27 years old. So he had jet black hair and very dark, eyebrows. And he got about 18 inches away from me. He was in his black turtleneck sweater, even in those days. And he looks at me very intensely and he says, "You want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life?" I was then CEO of Pepsi. "Or do you want to come with me and change the world. Now, that's so classic Steve Jobs. I mean, he had this ability to know how to say exactly the right thing at exactly the right time. And so the big insight about Steve, he was not an engineer, but he knew how to recruit really good engineering talent. But he had amazing intuition. And the brilliance of his intuition was shaped by what Steve used to call zooming. He'd say, what you got to do if you're going to really change an industry is you got to zoom out, but look at the boundaries of your industry. Nothing happens in the middle of your industry. All the innovation happens on the edge. And look at the other industries that may be abutting against your industry that may actually converge into it. And that's where innovation takes place. And then once you get that context of what is happening and then start to project what could happen, that was Steve's brilliance. He could see the obvious, 20 years ahead of the rest of us. Then you have to simplify. So you zoom out to do the former, and then you zoom in to simplify. You see everything in each one of Steve Jobs' brilliant successes. He was constantly simplifying. How did he simplify? Brilliant design. It was always about design and was always about user experience at every one of these industries that he reinvented. And so you say, okay, there are a set of first principles, and I was there with Steve when he was creating and I was helping him, the first principles that are still in place in Apple today. If you do it right and build the culture correctly from the beginning, those first principles stick. And they're there in Apple, and you can see them in Amazon, and you can see them in other companies too. Getting the first principles right, communicating them, getting people to believe passionately with what you do, and you build the right foundations and the right vision, you can build great companies.
Got it. And no, that was amazing. And I just want one more question on that. On the industry things that you were talking about, was Steve looking at it like the travel industry is doing this? How can that affect our business? Or would he look at those other industries to say, this is what's happening here. We can apply the same kind of industry dynamics and competitive moat to our industry? Like, what was using it as an example, or to see how it impact your industry?
No, what Steve always said, you got to think with your right brain as well as your left brain. Our left brain is pretty analytic. Our right brain is pretty creative. He always said that what people in the technology world miss is that it's not just about the invention of what you can extract from the science or the technology or the mathematics, but it's making it approachable to humans. So each of the industries that he had reinvented ultimately were defined by how well consumers wanted to accept what he created. Whether it was Pixar and digital animation, whether it was the iPhone that reinvented the phone, whether it was the computer, which I can remember back in the early days. I'd been at Apple for about 3 months. I'm sitting around in the Macintosh engineering lab with Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. It's late at night because that's when things got done in Silicon Valley in the tech world. And Steve and Bill are having a conversation, and they're talking about their differences of how they thought about the future of computing. And Bill Gates said, well, it's pretty obvious to me that the future of computing is software. Now, prior to Bill Gates inventing shrink-wrap software in the computer industry, this is MIDI computers and mainframes, was given away for free. Steve and really Bill said, the future is not about the hardware. It's about the software. And he said, I'm going to create and own the software in this industry. And he did. And that's why Microsoft is as valuable as it is. Steve, on the other hand, saw things in a different way. And I'll just tell you quickly, one time, Steve used to like to take me with him when he would go visit some of the people who were heroes in his mind. And one of them was Dr. Edwin Land, who invented the Polaroid camera. So after Dr. Land had been fired by his board and he opened up a lab on the Charles River in Boston, Steve said, let's go up and visit Dr. Land. So we go up there and we're sitting there in a big conference room, and Steve and Dr. Land are talking. I'm just kind of, a witness, and they're talking about where do great products come from. And Dr. Land said, I don't really invent these products. He said, they've always been there, but they've been invisible. And what I do is I reveal them. And Steve said, that's exactly how I think about it. That's why I don't do any market research. How can I ask a consumer what a computer ought to be when they've never used a computer before? And so both of those geniuses had great intuition. And you combine it with a respect for science and bringing great talent in with technology and things like that. And you combine that with great intuition. That's what makes a difference with a Steve Jobs or a Bill Gates or Dr. Land or Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. I mean, these guys have just amazing intuition, which is shaped by their brilliance and their first principles.
I mean, I could go all day. I mean, you just went from telling a story of you, Steve Jobs, and Bill Gates at 11 o'clock at night, let's say, discussing hardware versus software. Then you go to the Kodak CEO or founder talking about, I don't invent products, I just bring them to life, which is just think about it. It's an amazing, amazing, amazing thing. And Steve's like, yeah, that makes sense. I can't do, market surveys because, people don't know. We have to bring it to life. And I mean, I want to like dig in your head and get more of these stories behind the scenes and even talk about, we have to bring you on again because I know we have another, I guess, Tim Draper coming on to talk Bitcoin at 105. Do you know Tim Draper?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, so he's coming on to talk. He's
wonderful. Well, that'll be a great interview.
He's a big.
But just coming back to how do I choose what I work on now?
Yeah,
I've been spoiled. Yeah, because I've worked with just some amazing, talented leaders, and so what I look for, and it's what I found in Bob Hariri, they have to have that intuition. They have to have that passion. Yes, he's a great scientist. Yes, he has PhDs and an MD. Yes, he pilots his own jet plane. Yes, he's done all these things. But what really hooked me was his passion and intuition of how he thought about biology. Now, I didn't grow up as biology in my background, but I'm deeply curious about biology because if I were in university today, I would have majored in biology and data science. I wouldn't have majored in computer science. And so when I meet somebody from the life science world who has that passion and insight and intuition, that's how I get hooked, because I think I can help that kind of leader because I've been around people like that before.
That's okay. Got it. And that's, yeah. And you've worked for some successful Bobs, right? Bob Metcalf as well.
Oh yeah. Bob Metcalf is inventor of Ethernet, is one of my very closest friends. And Bob told me about 15 years ago, he said, John, people like you and me, as we get older, we need to reinvent ourselves. So I thought back to when Bill Gates and Steve Jobs told me about their noble cause to change the world. And I said, I'm going to find a noble cause, because I'd never heard the words noble cause in business before I met Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. And so I said, I'm going to go into the $4 trillion healthcare industry. I don't know anything about it, but then I didn't know anything about computers either when I went to Silicon Valley. And I said, I'm curious, I'm willing to work hard, and I'm pretty good at networking. And so I've been in this for about 15 years. And so that's my passion. That's why I keep still doing these things.
Yep. And 4 trillion is a good TAM, right? Good total addressable market. So it's a good industry to be in. Right?
Absolutely. But what makes it fun for me? I've just got a wonderful wife, but she's a wonderful partner. She's a truly brilliant computer engineer and mathematician. We do everything together, and it just means that we don't really have a hard line between work and fun.
Yeah, no, I hear you. That's awesome. Where are you based out of?
Palm Beach, Florida. It looks like the whole world is coming to us. Everybody's moving to Palm Beach, Florida.
Yeah, one of our investors who owns the Cavaliers and Rocket Mortgage, he just moved. He got a place in Palm Beach too. I'll have to pay him a visit down there, and then we'll come do an in-person interview, because there's so many stories you could tell that people,
the people down, Palm Beach used to be a place where people came to retire. Now it's where there's just incredible networking. I mean, like 800,000 people have moved out of New York in recent years. A lot of them are coming to Florida. Many of the most important in the business world are coming to Palm Beach. And so this community is alive and well with investors and ideas and people trying to reinvent so many different industries. And so I couldn't be living in a more fun place.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, John, thank you, Mr. Sculley. It's like quite an honor. I remember when I was in year 2000 doing my marketing corporate strategy at Ross School of Business at Michigan on Apple, and I remember those days like yesterday. And I'm actually talking to John Sculley, so it's just like a pinch me moment.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for inviting me. Congratulations on the success that you're having with this network.
Yeah, the company's really, we were about 20 people 2 years ago. Now we're about 110.
Wow.
We have 30 or 130. We have 30 million like readers a month now.
Well,
and subscribers.
I love those kind of stories. I mean,
yeah,
it shows you what makes America great. I'm a capitalist.
Yep.
I believe particularly in entrepreneurial capitalism. And so my special interest is not, I would never go work in a big corporation.
Me neither.
Anymore. In fact, I never went to a big corporation. I always went to small corporations that became big corporations.
Yep.
But my love in life and business is working with entrepreneurial capitalists who are building new things, finding better ways to do things. And you guys are a wonderful example of that.
Same thing. We look at old media, sort of sunsetted a little bit, and we're trying to bring innovation. Our whole goal as a business is to make information easier to consume. So like when you want to read why a stock has moved, you get the who, what, where, why. You don't get 1,000 words of BS. We get the real facts because millennials and next gen investor wants to know it right away. And so if we can serve that and make information easier to consume, we believe we can win. And win means more market share, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, well, I love that way of thinking. I mean, what the young investors are doing is basically reinventing the industry of,
That's true.
What is the stock market? What is the trading systems? How do you make decisions? And the way decisions are being made and the speed at which value is created. I mean, we've never had a precedent like this before.
Absolutely. Well, this was awesome, John. This was awesome. I can imagine what Steve Jobs would do to the investing space these days and like changing.
Well, he'd come in and reinvent that too, I'm sure. But Jason, what a pleasure it's been to be on your show. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
All right, guys. That was John Sculley. Awesome American Titan, American icon, business icon. Awesome to have him on. Check out their companies. Aaron, you put the symbols in there. I got a fair disclosure. I'm buying shares, just bought shares of Zeta, ZETA. There's also the SPAC. What's the symbol?
CELU.
CELU.
It just started trading. It just started trading and went from GX to CELU.
Yep.
I'll throw that back on the screen.
And I just did like a market order Zeta because I like everyone who's listening to trade before me. Between Steinberg and him, I didn't do my research on CELU yet. I will. But both those companies.
Well, we're gonna have CELU's CEO on SPAX Attack tomorrow, according to Zoltan's. So we'll get some more insight on the company tomorrow on SPAX Attack. But real quick, Zinger Nation, smash the like for a great interview with John Sculley, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any interviews with people like John Sculley. We've got more interviews lined up. So hit that subscribe button to make sure you don't miss out on any. And Raz, we got to get John Sculley on for a Raz report.
By the way, that Zoltan told me originally he was. I was all ready for that, but they switched it up on me. And we'll put some clips online. I mean, I would have dug in more about like meetings like at 11 o'clock at night, Bill Gates, him, Steve Jobs. I want to know, were they wearing sweatpants? Were they wearing like a button down? What time was it? Was 11 p.m. to 1 a.m.? Like what was,
the behind the scenes of a growing company at that time. Yeah, it's so interesting. So I don't know if John can still hear us, but so this show, Power Hour, is more of a trade idea, quick interviews. But for Raz Report, we'll do a sit down, in-depth, 45-minute to an hour interview. We'll get more into the stories.
We'll make it happen, Aaron. All right, don't you have Draper that you have to do, and the guys are going to get mad at us because we didn't flip over to their show yet?
Well, actually, I just got an update from Spencer saying that they are waiting for Tim to join before they go live. So I think I think we have a couple minutes. But I also wanted to ask John, about kind of what can investors do to try to identify, a really impressive C-suite, executives of a company. Is it that it's a founder-led company where there's a visionary like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk? Or
I think it's maybe, but I think it's looking at a history of like, were these guys risk takers? Did they start something else? Or, like John mentioned, he would only go to like smaller companies, not big companies. Like, are they rule breakers? Do they look at solving big problems, or do they just go to the easy job at, I don't know, not easy, but I know that's a question for him, and we can do it again in the future. And like these companies, like this Zeta Global, like how can you not put that on your watch list if you don't own it? I mean, look at the guys. I mean, they bought Discuss, which has a lot of data, but there's other companies. And when he said that the CEO is really good at acquiring companies and they have a team that's really good at integrating them, that's music to my ears, because we look at acquiring companies at Benzinga, and it's not easy. It's not easy. And seeing what they've bought and how they've done it, I was impressed by that. That was one of the reasons why I, besides John and Steinberg, that was one of the reasons why I'm like, I got to own this thing.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's really interesting anytime you have a guy like Steve Jobs who's truly, trying to change the world with his company. And I think maybe the closest thing we have to that right now is Elon Musk at Tesla. But yep. I see some kind of big differences, at least in my head, between Musk and Steve Jobs. So I don't know. I see that comparison thrown out there a lot, which I do. I see the similarities, but I think there are also stark differences between the two. But
you mean personality wise?
Yeah, personality wise. I think Steve Jobs. So I read Jobs's biography by Walter Isaacson, which is a great book if anyone hasn't read it or would like to check it out. But I just don't see, like, I don't think we would have seen Steve Jobs like go on Saturday Night Live, like things like that. Like, I think Elon Musk kind of takes in a little bit more of a.
I think as Steve Jobs got older, I think he would have considered that. But I think you're right. When he was younger, that he went up. I agree with you. I think.
Yeah, and it's things like that, that I think Steve Jobs was so, and when you read his book, like, he's so built into the vision that he basically, he had like tunnel vision. And if they were in his way, he didn't care, and people kind of got rubbed off the wrong way by that. But at the end of the day, he had a vision, and he wasn't going to let anyone stand in the way of that.
Very much true. Very much true. I mean, because he wanted people to realize his vision and see it, and it's hard when you say, like, it's hard even at Benzinga. I remember when I wanted the Benzinga Pro, and these guys are like, no, we don't want Benzinga Pro, and you don't want to get people mad at you. But Steve Jobs had, like you said, a singular vision. Yeah,
and if Steve Jobs went his whole career just not wanting people to get mad at him, Apple wouldn't be where it is today. So he was willing to kind of, burn those bridges to do what he needed to do. All right, Jason, I am getting the sign from Spencer that they are ready to go live. So we are going to go over to Moon or Bust, but stick around, Zinger Nation, because we got another big interview coming up with Tim Draper. Stacked interviews today, from John Sculley to Tim Draper, and don't miss out.
All right. Have a good day, guys. Thank you, Zinger Nation.
Smash that like and subscribe, and we'll be back tomorrow at 12 p.m. for another episode of Power Hour.